Canes Insight, folks, get there. Breaking down Miami football on a daily basis. Brad does a tremendous job, and everybody else, especially with the recruiting being front and center here during the summer as we lead into fall camp. And of course, the focus goes to the field here very soon, but the recruiting in particular, the interviews, the contacts that they have is remarkable. So we've got to get there on a regular basis. Let's look at the running backs, Brad, because when I look at the talent there and the talent going into last season, you would think that they would have to have a million injuries for it to affect this running back room, but it definitely did. Henry Parrish comes back, most productive back from Ole Miss. Mark FLETCHER comes in as one of the top running backs in all of college football. Trevante Citizen, we want to see what he can do as one of the best running backs in the 22 class. It's loaded. A.J. Allen, a transfer coming in from Nebraska, got his feet wet there with the Huskers. And maybe the biggest addition in some ways would be Tim Harrison leading the group, coming in from UCF, where he had a top 10 rushing attack there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, first and foremost, before we even talk about the players in the room, I mean, there was a lot of turnover on this football team, whether it was the players or the staff members. And this is another position group that's going to have a new face at the coaching position, right? And Tim Harris Jr., formerly, from South Florida as well, as we all know. So the recruiting was something that, is going to be something very smooth for this football program. So the recruiting aspect, you're not going to have to worry too much with Tim Harris. But then when you talk about the player development, you do have some guys in there. But when you look at this running back room, it's loaded from a talent standpoint. But then when you look closely at the productivity, Mark, that's where it gets a little bit interesting, right? The number one running back in this room, this year coming up is actually a guy that has only played 3 games in the last 2 years, and that's Don Chaney Jr. From Berlin Jesuit. He is finally healthy for the first time in his career at the University of Miami. Full offseason healthy, had full go. He looks better than ever. He's someone that when you talk to players on the team, when you talk to staff or just anyone around the program, he's someone where they are asking him to kind of slow it down because he's just running over everybody. He's been anxious to get back on the football field. Again, like I said, he hasn't been healthy his whole career. This is going to be his opportunity to really show that he can play on Sundays as well. He's in a very similar position to Tyler Van Dyke, as we know in the running back room, just as the position, the longevity at a running back is very slim, especially on Sundays, right? Your window is about 5 to 6 years. And if you're already going through injuries, it starts to get slimmer. And someone in Don Chaney, he has the stature and the ability to play on Sundays, but he has already battled so many injuries where this is going to be his kind of make or break year to show that he can kind of get drafted in the NFL. Even though he has 2 more years of eligibility, I think this is going to be the year to showcase his talent. He's going to be relied on very heavily this year, in my opinion. So that's going to be the number one running back in our room. But then you got guys that could complement him. I think Henry Parrish is the perfect running back 2 in any running back room. I think our problem last year was we had to rely on him at being that running back 1. And he's just not necessarily that type of guy that you need to give, the 15 to 20 carries for. And not to mention that the play style of gameplay of the offensive play calling that we were running last year compared to how it's going to be this year is really going to suit someone like Henry Parrish, who is coming from a more Ole Miss play calling, which is going to be very similar to how we're going to be running it this year. So I expect someone like Henry Parrish to kind of go right from last year to this year and maybe productivity go up even more. So he should be a great complementary too. And then you bring up Ajay Allen, who's a transfer from Nebraska. This is a guy who I actually thought was a great addition because you lose someone in Jalen Rooster, who ended up going to SMU and following Rhett Lashley and a few other players on this team. You lose someone in Rooster, but then you bring in a guy in Ajay Allen where if you really watch their film, they're very similar type running backs. So their game style and ability to what they bring to the table is really going to fit in just like how Rooster was. In my opinion, he's going to be very motivated and very hungry because he's coming in as a redshirt freshman, only played in 2 or 3 games last year at Nebraska before suffering a knee injury, but really showcased some very bright spots. And I think he's going to be a guy that we don't have to necessarily rely on in this running back room, but he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to showcase his talent all throughout the football season. So he's going to be a great addition. And then you can't forget the 2 freshmen that we brought in this year, right? Mark FLETCHER, first and foremost, coming from American Heritage. It's one of the best high schools in the nation over there in Broward County. This is a guy that every school in the nation wanted him. At one point, he was committed to Ohio State. Ended up being a state of Florida battle between Florida and Miami ended up getting him. And there's a big reason why a lot of fans are very excited for this young man. Not only is he a true freshman, but I think he's going to get a lot of playing time this year just because of what he's going to bring to the table. He's someone in the running back room that is a lot different from the rest just because of his size and what he brings to the football field. This is a young man as a true freshman. He's already 6'2", 225 pounds. So he's ready to go. He's, college football ready. And he's a ground and pound type of running back, and he could also catch out the backfield. So he's going to bring a lot of diversity to the football field, and he's going to create mixed matches as soon as he gets comfortable in this college football atmosphere. And then you also got in Chris Johnson Jr. I don't expect him to play much this year. He's going to be more of a speed guy. You may see him on, kick return, punt return. Hopefully only play 4 games this year and be able to redshirt. But he's a guy. He's a track guy. I believe he ran 100-meter in like 10.45 in the 100, which is one of the fastest in the nation. So you talk about speed. That's something you're definitely going to want in a Shannon Dawson offense.
Ajay Allen, Mark. Ajay, not AJ Allen. We covered Nebraska football. No, that was me needing the correction there. Brad, thank you so much for that because we cover Nebraska football. I got a ton of names in my head, but it's been a few months, so I forgot. Ajay Allen coming in from the Huskers. All right, Canes Insight. Get there on a regular basis. Check out Brad's work. Again, it's everything you want for Miami football coverage.